Happy Monday. Happy September 12th. Welcome to Adventures in Business. I am your co host, Amani Experience, Amani Roberts. To your right, my left on the screen is Mandy Graciano. How are we doing today, Mandy? How was your weekend?
I am awesome, Amani. My weekend was mellow. It was really mellow. I don't know if you've heard of this organization. It's the Women in Tourism and Hospitality.
Mm,
It's a organization, well, it's here in San Diego, started by Clara Carter, but it's now a national organization. And they had their conference on Friday at the
mm.
Sheraton San Diego last week. So I kicked off the weekend with a whole bunch of inspiration with a bunch of really cool tourism and hospitality ladies. It was pretty awesome. What about
Oh,
you? Did you get your nap time in your reading this weekend?
I
I
did
feel
not
like
give
every
you
time we
that.
do this, you take a nap or you read 18 books.
Yeah, no, I haven't read anything. No reading, no nap time. Just a little work, little like football. So week one of the NFL was yesterday, so I
Oh,
watched
that's
my team
right.
play. And then
Did
that
they
was
win?
pretty
It's
much
Washington,
it.
right? Did they win?
Yeah, Washington, we won in the last minutes or whatever. So that was good.
Congratulations.
Stressful. So besides that, nothing too crazy. Just preparing for the upcoming week. Did a little bit of lesson planning. Yeah, that was it. So nothing too crazy this weekend. Now this week is my birthday week, so I'm gonna definitely do some things during the week. Go to Cheesecake
Awesome.
Factory, Chili's, and then I have a close friend whose birthday is on Saturday or Friday, so we're gonna go to one of her parties. So that's kind of the plans this week.
Birthday week. I love that. Wait, does that make you a Virgo? Yeah, you're a Virgo.
Yes,
I
yes.
should have known this. You're meticulous. That's great. You are a Virgo. I have a question for you though, Amani, because I think I saw this on an email because you sent a newsletter out last week.
I did,
And
yes.
I know that I know you're a DJ and I know you do awesome live events for people. But something I did not know that you do is that you teach people how to DJ as an actual live event. Is this fact or fiction? And how does this work? Because I want to learn and I want to be at a corporate event
Okay.
where
All right.
somebody hires, somebody brings you in. I want to learn how to do this.
That is fact. It's a team building activity. I bring the turntables. The first thing you do is you create your DJ name. So we'll say, whatever your DJ name is. Then you announce that on the microphone. Then you pick like your entry song. I'll find your entry song for you. You'll say, okay, what's up, everybody? I am DJ, MG. And then you're on the turntables. You might scratch a little bit and then drop your song. Then you also will pick like this is kind of continuous throughout the activity. That's how we're building team building because we're letting people be creative. We're getting the walls down because music kind of lowers all kind of defenses or whatever. And so then we get you pick your theme song for the year. And then if it's a group, the group has to design a record label that signifies kind of what they're going through or what their mission is. So we go step
Ooh,
1, 2, 3, and 4, and it's a DJ lesson with turntables. You come up, you're on the microphone, you got the music going, and that's kind of what it is. Yeah.
oh my
Wheels
God.
of Steel, it is called Wheels of Steel.
Wheels of Steel? That's the
Yeah.
actual activity name?
That's actually because that's like the kind of the original. That's like what the culture of DJing. You're on the wheels of steel. That's what that
Mhm.
means. Yeah, and it's like two wheels, left deck and right deck.
I didn't realize it. Are people timid? Like, is it a whole bunch of stuffy people and then halfway through everyone's having a good time? Like, how does that work from like a corporate standpoint?
Pretty much the same way. Like they're a little bit nervous, don't want to scratch the record. I'm like, don't you worry, you won't scratch it. Nervous on the microphone because public speaking, people fear that more than they feel deaf. So,
Mhm.
but about halfway through, without any liquor, people open up and just let loose and have a good time.
That's fun. All right, I'm gonna have to keep that in my repertoire for my clients
Yes.
because when I
Yes.
saw that, I was jealous, excited. I felt all these emotions. So thanks
Right,
for
right.
elaborating on that for me.
Of course. All
So
right, so
should we get to our guest?
I'm thinking so because this gentleman's very interesting. I have lots of questions. So why don't we let you intro? We'll bring him in and we'll have a conversation.
That sounds awesome. Well, today for Adventures in Business, we have the slow walking, always smiling former SAP employee. He's the founder of Peach New Media, the founder of Prop Fuel. He sold Peach New Media, by the way. So we'll have to ask him about that because I'm always interested in people finding businesses and then selling them. Super interesting. He's the host of two podcasts, EO360, which entrepreneur organization, which we interviewed a couple weeks ago. Angela Minardi was a part of Entrepreneurs Organization as well. And the other one is Association Strong, which is an awesome, awesome podcast with meeting planners and all sorts of meeting information. Dad of three humans, dad of 3 dogs, and a wife, and a lover of choose your own adventure books. Dave Will, come
Yes,
on
we need a round of
down.
applause
Wait, hold
for-
on. Was that already? Am I in?
You're
Yeah,
in.
you're in.
No. Do it over again. Do it over.
Bring it in again.
Say it again. And Dave Will.
Dave Will, here he
There
is.
we go. Yes.
Oh
Very
my
funny.
God. It's so great to be here.
Yes.
I
Yes.
like the
Well, we're
point.
happy to
Hey,
have you.
happy birthday, Amani.
Thank you. Our birthday is Wednesday, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, happy birthday. And I was listening about you said something about Wheels of Steel. I'm really curious if you don't mind me asking a question to start this thing off.
Go
How
ahead.
do you not scratch records? Like, I don't understand. You're sitting there like this.
Yeah, it's just the needle. The needle's not too dense, so it won't hurt the record, and you just scratch and the record won't skip or anything. Now, if you have a record and used it for like 3 or 4 or 5 years, then maybe you might get a few little hiccups. But generally speaking, no scratching of the records.
I don't think you're right. That
You
just
know,
sounds wrong.
this is
It just sounds
through my
wrong.
experience. Yes, through
And-
my
and I have-
experience.
I have another question for you.
Mhm.
So I'm very curious what impact alcohol has on the how loose people get and how quickly they get. And I wonder if you've ever tracked that, like how many drinks, and how fast it increases the rate of comfort. It's a
Yes.
social lubricant, right? So how much lubricant does it take
Yes.
to make people that social?
It
I
will
want to
cut
make
the
a guess.
time.
Is it
Go ahead.
2
Go ahead. Go
drinks?
ahead,
I want to
Mandy.
make a guess. Is it like 2? And in the chat for people listening, if you have a guess on how many drinks it takes to get people loosened up to be their best DJ self, like pop that
Right.
number in the chat
There's
too.
a crest, right? I'll bet there's a crest. With too many, you start to lose some of
Yeah.
that DJism.
That's a problem. Shout out to Susie K in the chat. Hello, Dean LeBay. I hope I said that right. Hello to you. Also, I would say if it took people 2 hours to loosen up for the activity, if you give them a couple drinks, 2 or 3 drinks throughout the first hour, they will loosen up. It'll cut it in half. So it'll take them like 50% off an hour instead of 2 hours to loosen up.
So have you guys seen Liquid Death?
No. What is liquid death?
You don't know Liquid
No.
Death? Oh,
What's
it's
that?
amazing. It looks
No.
like an IPA. It's a bottle. Google
Oh, the
Liquid
water.
Death. And
Okay.
it's water. And they have like the black can is I think the black one is seltzer and the white one is regular water. And so I was at this party, like a corporate thing, and I had enough drinks. I didn't want any more. And it's getting, as I age, I'm getting a little smarter. I know when to shut it down. So like it's like 9:30, 10 or something. And I'm done. So I go to the bar and I was just going to get a seltzer or something. And I see they had Liquid Death. So I grabbed the Liquid Death and I'm sitting there drinking this water out of a can. And the can is so badass. It makes me feel like I'm still a part of the party. Like, I don't know if everybody feels like this.
Yeah.
Sometimes for me, when I have a bottle of Poland Spring in my hand or a cup of water, just kind of feel like a party pooper to a certain degree. And it
Yeah.
must
Yeah.
be very,
You're
very
hydrating in style.
right. It's the Liquid Death. It is psychologically, I didn't have that sentiment, anyway.
That's okay.
That's I wonder.
Actually,
I'll bet Liquid Death would be
Yeah.
like a placebo effect on that environment. Like I really believe that, and which I think is probably very helpful for people that
Also-
can't drink.
and a good DJ name. A good DJ name, Liquid Death. Also,
Liquid.
You
Okay. Yeah.
can
Liquid
start your
death.
show
Yes.
with that. Yeah.
Brian.
Liquid Death, yeah.
Brian in the chat. Hello. Craig in the chat. Hello. Good to see you. I think maybe I'm really curious. My first question for you. It's okay if I kind of ask the first one, right, Manny? Is that okay?
Get in
So-
there, Amani. Yeah.
Okay. So
Are we gonna rotate? Like just going? I get a question after Mandy.
I think it's gonna be you get a question from Mandy, me, then you ask us the question, and then it's just gonna be a banter,
That's cool.
all back and forth.
I just want to know the rules of the game here. Let's go.
There are very little.
We're all just
few-
gonna talk. We're
over each other.
also
Yeah, let's do
shout at
that.
the same time and just see what happens. Yeah, let's see what happens.
My question is, you started the podcast for the EO 360. What have been maybe your top 2 or 3 lessons you learned by doing that podcast?
Uh, well, it's interesting. I joined the. Well, it's interesting to me, and I also say that as a placeholder when I don't know what to say. It's interesting. So it's also putting you in the frame of mind. So I'm trying to plant that seed. What I'm about to say really is interesting. But I joined. I'm a member of Entrepreneurs Organization. I'm a volunteer and a member, and like a full paying member as an entrepreneur. And I signed up to participate in the virtual learning committee. And my first meeting, they're like, "Hey, you know anything about podcasts?" I was like, "Yeah, totally," because I've listened to podcasts. This is back in like I want to say 2015 or so. And I was like, "Yeah, why?" And he's like, "Well, because that's what you're going to do in the virtual learning committee." So they kind of thrust it on me. Of course, they asked me. I was like, "Sure, that'd be kind of cool." So, what are the things I learned? Was that the question? Top 2 or 3 things I learned?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the one thing I didn't learn yet is how to market a podcast well. It's something that I don't really take responsibility for that, but I can tell you that I don't think we as an organization have done a very good job at that at EO marketing it. Now, having said that, when we do market it, it gets a really good spike. So that's the first thing I'd say. And the second thing I would say that I did learn is that consistency and endurance always wins. And that's not just with podcasts, that's with starting a business, that's with anything you're doing. Consistency and endurance and the metaphor I think of, or the analogy, as is or like, anyway, the thing that's very much like that is the ocean, right? And this weekend here in the Boston area, we had some hurricane swells come in, and it's been a very flat year. So I mean, a year for surf, and so all the surfers, anybody with a board, was out this weekend, and the waves were unbelievable. But the reason I bring that up is because waves are this great example of this consistent flow of energy. And so that's what I've learned with podcasts. Just keep doing it. What's his name? The marketing guru. He always swears. He's kind of high energy, talks to the younger community. Gary Vanderchuck.
Gary V.
Gary V.
Vanderchuck.
Yeah.
What's his last name?
Yeah, I think it's Vaynerchuk, I believe.
Vanderchuck. That's right. So he preaches the same thing. He's like, just start and then keep doing it. And eventually, over a long time, you'll start to see an audience. So that's really the biggest thing I learned. So one was what I didn't learn. One was I did learn. So third thing, I'll say another thing I did learn is that entertainment comes, I believe entertainment and education flows best, at least for me, when I'm 100% absolutely just being what's natural to me. And some people aren't going to like it, which is fine. And other people are going to find it highly entertaining and engaging. So for me, I'm just naturally curious, and I'm a little bit of an ADD goofball, and I bring that to the table, and that's where I live and that's where I thrive. So that's what works for me.
Okay. Interesting.
I love that. Can we hit this for a second? Because I want to point this out. So for anybody listening, 2 things that he said: be consistent and be authentic. And I know it sounds really generic,
You
but
said it so much better.
here's the guy. Yeah, but I copied off of you. I just wrapped it up, but you gave the visual of the ocean, which I think is a really good visual, because I think all of us running businesses, we are all trying all these things all the time. Some things work and some things don't. Most of it is not instant gratification. And just that reminder, that gift that you just give us of, you just keep doing it. You're not going to always feel that instant return right away. Just keep doing it and keep being yourself, and the waves will happen and things will pop. I love that. And that actually leads me to a question. So is it my turn? Is it my turn in the rotation
It's
here?
your
Do
turn. We have to say
can I
hello
ask
to
a que- okay,
Lisa.
all right,
Say
all
hello to
right.
Lisa Tomaselli. She also joined us. So hi there, Lisa. Good to see you. Go ahead, Wendy.
Lisa.
Okay.
Hey, wait, Mandy, before you
Hey,
ask the
Lisa.
question, I'll
Yeah.
just say anything anything that has ever, anything of value in my life has come from consistency and endurance. Actually, maybe not even consistency, just endurance, right? Like,
Mhm.
you know how many times I had to ask my wife to marry me before she finally gave in and said yes? Like,
How many
there's an
times?
How
example.
many? Guess in the
I don't know.
chat. People guess in the chat. How many times did Dave ask his wife to marry
How
him?
many kids I have? Like, my God, I kept 3, but like, I don't know. So like, you just got to keep trying before you get it right. I'm kidding about the kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
no, but seriously, like
Huh.
everything good in my life came from being able to endure. And actually, I mentioned my wife, and that's true too. With a marriage, is like there's a lot of endurance for everyone, and I think it happens to be something that I enjoy. Not only my marriage, but like this concept of endurance, and all the way from the sports I do to the career I've chosen, like everything centers around that core concept of endurance. Just keep going, you know?
Okay.
The long
I
game.
know you
Yeah.
had a
No, the long game
question,
of endurance. It is important.
Mandy. So go to that. And I might circle back to this point, but go ahead, Mandy.
Well, mine's a two-parter. So first one is
Mm.
prop fuel. Can you tell us what prop fuel is and tell us how people in our industry, in the meetings and association industry, how people use prop fuel?
Yeah. So PropFuel is a software platform. It's a communication platform designed to help member-based organizations. Associations are a big part of it, but member-based organizations understand their member needs better by asking questions and then taking immediate action on the answer that they get. And we do that through a methodology called conversational engagement. And the whole concept behind conversational engagement is this idea of turning communications through your organization, turning them into a more human interaction. Like, for instance, most of the time, we'll talk about conferences. Here's a good, or meetings. Here's a really good example. I think this is one of many examples of how you might embrace this idea of conversational engagement. Most of the time, we're like, "Hey, huge event coming up this fall. It's gonna be great. Check out all the speakers. Check out the lineup. We got, all these parties you're gonna be able to go to. We got Obama coming. We got, we got cake playing." And I don't know where I'm getting these names from. Actually, Obama was at HubSpot
That's like one
Inbound.
of my favorite bands.
Cake? Yeah, okay.
There you
I
go.
saw Cake and Bruno Mars at the
Okay.
same time. I bounced back and forth at a Dreamforce conference for Salesforce. Anyway,
Oh,
so instead of sending out an email, like a broadcast email with this thing with 50 links and everything you're gonna do, why not ask your constituents, right? Your potential attendees, ask them a question. We have this conference coming up, which has amazing content every year. What's most intriguing to you? Or what are you trying to learn? Or what's a problem you're dealing with? And based on what they click on, based on the question and how they answer it, then we can bring them down a different path, right? So kind of like you were asking earlier about this choose your own adventure book. So it's
yeah.
kind of like this philosophy of, by giving people a choice on what they do, you take them down this journey, and you might keep going with a couple questions just like you would in a regular conversation. That process is called ask, capture, act. That's just how humans interact. Yet what we do normally in broadcast emails, we just send stuff out. We're like constantly talking at people. And what PropFuel tries to do
Mhm.
is spark a conversation. And it starts with this automated process of ask, capture, and then take action. And it might go through a number of iterations, but the idea is to provide immediate value to people based on their needs and interests over a period of time. It's not something you send out once in a while. It's a very consistent process over a long period of time. So yeah, that's what PropFuel does.
Is no, there no, it's funny because I have a bunch of association clients, and as we were telling people about you being on the show, a whole bunch of people said, "Oh, we love Prop Fuel," which is exciting because I didn't, I had met you before, but I hadn't used your service and I wasn't aware that, there was a slew of people in that part of the business using it. So I was excited to hear other people have known about it, but I was also excited because I think the engagement piece right now, everybody's shouting at everybody for one reason or another. Just like we said at the beginning of the show, we were all going to talk at the same time. I feel like that's the life we're living. We're all just shouting at each other all at the same
Mhm.
time. So when you're asking these questions, this first level of questions, are there any answers that come up that's completely surprise you or completely surprise your clients that you think, here's a trend I'm seeing that I hadn't seen before? Are there any answers that are popping up that are unique that have kind of taken on a mind of their own?
Well, sure. I mean, there's different kinds of answers you're going to see. Like you might ask very simple yes no questions or maybe a multiple choice. And the simpler you make it for people to answer, the more people will answer, right?
Mhm.
Like you want to make the process super simple, a very short prompt. I often think about it like this analogy, and I'm going to get to your answer in a second. It's a great question, by the way. Uh, when I see somebody walking a dog, this is normal human interaction. This is an example of how this conversational engagement works. When I see somebody walking a dog, I want to pet the dog. Like that's my goal. I'm a dog lover, and I want to pet the dog. So
Mhm.
that's my goal. So I'm gonna walk up to the person and I'm gonna spark a conversation so I can pet the dog. Now I'm not gonna go right up and just pet the dog. A, it's dangerous, and B, it's rude. So I'm gonna go up. I'm gonna spark this
Mhm.
conversation. What a beautiful dog, or I love your dog. What kind of dog is it? And it might start with that, but ultimately I'm gonna ask a question like, "Can I pet your dog?" or "Is your dog friendly?" And that's going to give me some variation of a
Mhm.
yes or a no, and then I'm going to know whether I can go over some dog loving or take a step back, right? So that's this idea
Mhm.
of conversational engagement. So this simple prompt with a simple question tends to yield the best results from a volume perspective. But what you're talking about is a little different. I think you're talking about surprise results. Now, when oftentimes a lot of these things will lead to an open-ended question. Usually it's only one, two, three questions in any exchange. It's a short conversation. But
Mhm.
based on that, and especially with the open-ended stuff, you might be able to continue the conversation one-on-one. So if you reach out to like 3,000 people in
Mhm.
this first conversational engagement approach, and then let's just say 500 respond, and of the 500, maybe there's 200 that respond in a way that weren't kind of a continuation of the conversation. And of those 200, there's 30 that put a comment in there that is something you really need to comment on. Now you just went from 3,000 down to 30 people that you should connect with one-on-one, right? So that's
Mhm.
so that's kind of the process. That's how you get connected to people that do have surprising things to say. I'll give you a very specific example, though, to answer your question directly. A very surprising result was when people do not renew their membership. So we're talking for associations. When people do not renew their membership after receiving like a dozen pings from the association saying your membership's up, it's expiring, it's expired. Are you going to renew? Renew here, renew here. What percentage of people do you think, after all of that, didn't even know their membership expired? So I'm not even talking about the people that like
Mhm.
renewed. I'm talking about the people that just never renewed. Of that batch, what percentage of them didn't know their membership had expired after 12 emails?
60% is my
30%.
guess.
Okay, it's slightly in between, but Amani gets the carrot because it was 53% across all of our clients that asked that question. 53, but I've seen it way higher. I've never seen it as low as 30%. Like that's way off. Like I've never seen it that low. I've
Yeah.
seen it as low as 40%, but 53 was the average. Didn't even know their membership expired. So that always surprises people. And they're like, I don't get it. We sent out a dozen emails. How did they not know? Well, it's
Yeah.
because you're sending out a dozen emails that
'Cause
kind of all look the same. we've trained people that our communications with them just aren't really that important because we put 50 links and everything. It's like, oh, I got another memo from this association. Delete.
And I was going to say, and people delete. Their minds are changed just to go through and delete. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
All
What
right,
was
so it's
your
my turn. So
okay,
Vibe,
yeah,
I see
you're
Vibe in the background. Were you in that magazine? Were you like Vibe? Is that like a DJing magazine that you were featured in?
oh no. Okay, so you're speaking about this right here. So
Yeah.
I'm a big Mariah Carey fan. And so I kept one of the covers of Vibe magazine that she was on and I framed it. And I used to have a whole bunch of Vibe magazine's covers in my man cave, but I moved back out west from the East Coast. So I have a smaller space. So I just have a couple here. I have a bunch that's in storage. And so that's it. I'm just a big Mariah fan. So I show my love for her by putting the Vibe cover up, and that's what it is.
Well, maybe we can show our love for her by
Hey.
replacing that cracked screen. I mean, cracked glass on the front.
Yeah. Yeah. This happened pretty recently, and I just haven't got
Somebody
to
send
frame.
Amani a new frame.
Sounds like he has
For
a
your
few in
birthday,
storage you can
Amani,
replace.
for your birthday this week, I'm gonna send you a new frame. Which, by the
Yes.
way, I didn't know you liked Mariah Carey, and I have to tell
Oh,
you, and Dave, this could be fun fighter for you too. Have you heard Meghan Markle's new podcast called Archetypes? Because
No.
Mariah Carey was the guest on it last week,
really?
and she was
Okay.
excellent. They talked about the word diva and the
Uh-huh.
origin of the word diva and how that used to be good to be a diva. Like Mariah Carey was the good diva. And then she all
Right.
of a sudden became the bad diva when the word diva
Yeah.
changed into being like somebody,
Like a
picky or
drama queen.
finicky.
A
Anyways,
drama queen, yeah.
I'll text it to you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's
It's
good.
a
Did you say
great interview.
podcast?
I'll send it to you.
It,
It's
Yeah.
a podcast. Yeah. It's called
it,
Archetypes.
oh, I
I
got
mean,
it. I got it.
yeah. I mean, I even have like,
Yeah.
I have her autobiography right here as a gift for one of my viewers on the Twitch or whatever. So, I'm a fan. I've been,
Aw.
a fan from her from the beginning though. Vision of Love. Like I knew back then that she was going to be big. So she got me through some tough times, a lot of life experiences. So I'm loyal to her, that's my girl.
Aw.
So now it's back to my turn. Good
He's
question,
so
Dave. I
nice.
love it. I love it.
Okay, good question, Dave.
See,
I
I'm
like this
telling you right now,
round
by
robin. We
asking
haven't done a round robin question yet.
this whole question thing, like I'm a huge fan of asking questions. Like you want to spark a conversation, you ask questions. My kids, like
Mhm.
you remember getting nervous before dates and stuff. You're like, oh my God, what if you have nothing to talk about? It's so easy. Just ask questions. Right. And the goofier and sillier questions are probably the more fun the answers are going to be. But like when you're stuck, ask a question. And
Yeah.
it just kind of
Mhm.
simplifies everything in my book. Anyway, go ahead. What do you have, Amani?
Oh,
Agreed.
well, I'm curious for you, like, what was the inspiration for starting Propfield? Because it's very difficult to start a business, and then you started one that's a really kind of unique niche. Like, how did you get inspired to move forward and do that?
All right. So hold on. So you're in my little choose your own adventure book
Okay.
here. You get to
Okay.
the end of a chapter and it says, if you want the fabricated marketing story, turn to page 312. If you want the true story, turn to page 57. What's it going to be?
We'll turn to page 57. Yeah, let's go 57.
See, but it's so much more
Truth
fun.
bombs.
I used to read both. So
Pick which one you wanted to go for.
Truth
so
bombs.
the
Truth
true
bombs
answer,
only.
I mean, the marketing answer is like questions run the world, and you want to, but the truth is, I I really enjoy creating something from nothing. A huge part of my identity is entrepreneur. Um,
Mhm.
Huge part of it, among many other things, but like a big part of my identity is entrepreneur. And to me, an entrepreneur is somebody that creates something from nothing. Um, and so I don't fall in the category of entrepreneur that's trying to change the world. I I know a lot of the Gen Y and Z the next gen is really like, there's a lot of press about how they're trying to change the world. And I think that's awesome. Like it's really awesome. But you need the little things too. Not everybody can work on curing cancer. Not everybody can figure out a better way to bring water to clean water to the remote parts of India. I I'm starting to ramble on, but I started Prop Fuel. I've been rambling since we started this thing 3 hours ago. So
We love it. Ramble away. Ramble away. That's what we're here for. What else
so
you
we
gonna do
started
on lunch?
this
Our
with
lunch, not
with
yours.
my partner Cameron and I started this with a totally different expectation of what it was going to be. And actually, the name Prop Fuel doesn't really align that well with what we're doing today. But we used to be a recognition platform for companies. Like that's where we started. That was our idea. We
Mhm.
started doing it, and then over a long period of time, we found our product market fit. It brought us back into working with associations. It brought us it, and here's the cool thing: it was actually interacting with our clients that helped us move in the right direction. So I'd love to claim I'm like Steve Jobs and we had this brilliant vision of what could be, and that was conversational engagement and working on developing this, but that's just not true. The truth is what we've created, which is awesome, like it's absolutely awesome, didn't come from my head, didn't come from Cameron's head. It came from this collective thought behind our clients and the stuff that we started. So we did start something. We'll take that credit. But then it's like now you get all the mind meld of everybody sharing ideas and working together over a period of time, hence the endurance. And then eventually, with the right molding, it turns into something awesome. And so I'd love to say I had the vision for creating what we created today, but that's just not true. It evolved just like
Mm.
we raise our kids. We can imagine what we want our baby to turn into when they're 30 or 40. But the fact is, the baby's got a mind of its own and it's going to figure out what it wants to do. You might be able to mold your children, but it's like a child. It turns into its own thing and hopefully it creates value.
Okay. Interesting. Now, Dean has a good follow-up question for us. He says, "What was the aha moment when you finally figured it all out?"
Oh my God, Dean, great question. So um,
Yeah, great question.
the answer is very, very obvious. But before I give you the answer, I'm going to give you this great analogy my partner used once. He's like, product market fit is like walking into a dark gymnasium, no windows, and you walk in. So imagine you're thrust into this gymnasium, right? You're in the middle. And it's like you can't see a thing. So your arms are out and you're like looking around to find the light switch. And the first thing you find is the wall. You don't know where you are on the wall. So now you're kind of going like this up and down the wall and you can't, it's still pitch black. And then you find a corner. You're like, okay, well, didn't find it there. So, but at least you can go on the other wall. And eventually you find that light switch because you just happen to endure the period of time it takes to find the light switch in a gymnasium and you flip it on. And so Dean's question is, what was that light switch moment? And
Mhm.
for us, it
Mhm.
was money. It was when we started making money. And
Mhm.
I
Mm.
know that to um, uh, the folks that are kind of into peace and love and stuff, that sounds mean and awful because it's about money and it's greedy. But we're not building this to make a ton of money. We're building this because it's really fun to create. The metric of success is money.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so money turns into a metric. And if you're creating a lot of value, and this is, I mean, I'm sure you can come up with weird examples where people are not creating value but making a ton of money. That's not what I'm talking about. Most of the time, there's a direct correlation between value creation and money made. That's what makes capitalism awesome. And so money is the metric that proves value is being created, at least in our book right now. And so, Dean, to answer your question, it's when the faucet turned on and dollar bills were flying out. Like that's when we realized we had found product market fit.
Interesting. Okay.
Great question, Dean. Yeah, I love that. I want to go back to, I want to harken back to your yonder years, because this isn't your first startup, right? Your first startup was Peach New Media. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Did
yeah,
I remember that
it had
right?
a
And
different
then
name. It was actually called Boston Conferencing at first.
Hmm.
Boston
Yeah.
Conferencing. Okay, so
Yeah. Right.
how did you go from you started the company and then you sold the company? So I'm just curious about the selling of the company. Like, how do you decide as the founder of a company who to sell it to, or if you're going to sell it at all, or when to give in or when to hold on? Like, how did you get to that point
Yeah.
with
That's the
Boston
soup.
Conferences or Peach New Media or whatever your first company?
It's an interest. That is a good question. Because and there's a lot of variables that come into play. Better question would be, why did you start a business? I'll tell you, Mandy. I'm glad you asked because I got fired from my job. Wait, it's my turn to ask the question anyway. So, Dave, why'd you start at Boston Conferencing?
Oh,
But
okay, okay.
because I got fired from my job, and when I was offered another job, similar job, I remember getting the offer, and I got this really dark feeling in my stomach, like I just ate some bad fish. It's like this
Hmm.
just did not feel right. And I talked to my wife, which is really hard to do because we had a baby and a new home, and she was raising the baby, and um, so needless to say, she's super supportive. She's like, you know what, whatever you want to do, we'll figure it out. If we have to sell the house and downsize,
Awesome.
we'll do that. So that was the beginning of my first company, and I remember like I think when I sold the business, so this is the bridge to your question. When we sold the business, my brother and my father told me like 14 years earlier, they were like, "What the hell is he doing? Like, what is he gonna do with that? Like, he should just get a real job."
Mm.
So yeah, so I was 14 years in. So we had gone from a scrappy little scrappy little service business where I was reselling web conferencing, right? Like, and that's where they were like, "What the hell is he doing? Reselling web?" But like I said before, product market fit is about constantly morphing and learning from people and jumping on ideas that aren't necessarily there when you start. And so over the years, it morphed into a software company that was a learning management system. So we went from selling web conferencing to using web conferencing to create content to hosting that content. And eventually it turned into this cool thing we're building for associations. So it's software. And I didn't really have any intent in selling yet. I didn't think we were ripe. I thought we had to be bigger than we were to sell. But a private equity firm, pretty cool because it was, Sand Hill Road out in Silicon Valley, like the classic private equity firm.
Mm.
They reached
Yeah.
out, and I had been receiving phone calls. I mean, once you're in business for a few years, you tend to get phone calls from people just hunting, fishing for something. And so I didn't think much of it until they told me some specifics about our industry. And so I wasn't really looking to sell, but they confronted me. And at the same time, another private equity firm came in. And so it was nice to have two options. And there were two variables that led to me actually selling. One is I was getting tired of it,
Mhm.
14 years in, and, a little bit of fatigue around the concept
Yeah.
for me. Uh, and the second thing is this, it just sounds crass, but it's like shit ton of money. It's like, it's really fun to think about. So like
Yeah.
you put those two things together where you're a little tired and then somebody comes and there's a lot of money on the table
Mhm.
that could free you up to do other things. Like it was a no-brainer. Having said that, it was important to me that the business lives on. I don't care about the name, but I want the core element of what we built to live on, for our customers to be happy, and for my team to be happy. And for the
Mhm.
most part, that happened.
Okay.
So
Good.
that's my little
That's good.
story.
Had the gut pain return at all? Like, since you left your one company where you had the twinge in your belly when you got the offer, has that
Yeah,
returned at all, or
of course.
have
Every
you
time
made decisions that don't involve any gut issues?
yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, the gut pain comes back every time I have a client that's unhappy, or every time a client decides that we're not a good fit for them anymore. Like anytime that happens, I get a sick feeling. I'm like, it just doesn't settle with me. Yeah. So it happens, but I can say I very comfortable. That's not the right word. I really like my job. And that doesn't mean, I think there's this, I don't believe people when they say they wake up out of bed and they get out of bed excited to go to work every day. I call bullshit on that. And if it's not bullshit, then it's the medication they're on, or like there's some like something going on in their head, like, which isn't bad, but maybe they have like I don't know, they're manic. Maybe they're manic. Like, I just don't believe that. Maybe because I can't understand it. I wake up some days and I don't feel like working. And that's okay, because there's other days I do, and I kick ass on those days. That's the endurance part of it. So yeah, I get that stomach feeling still every now and then, but for the most part, I love my job. I love the people I work with. I get to be who I want to be. I just get to be me. Some people don't like it. You know what I mean, Amani? Amani doesn't like it. I can tell.
I love this. I love it.
Amani loves it.
It's your turn to ask questions, and then I have another good one for you. So your turn to shoot, ask us both questions.
Right. So I see a keyboard. I'm more interested in Amani than I am Mandy. I'm sorry, Mandy. Maybe because I know you a little bit more. Amani,
Dave,
what is up with the red keyboard behind you?
Okay. So I do some music production. And
yeah, but that looks like a really cheap keyboard.
Right. But if you
it
turn
looks
the
like
keyboard,
a Kmart cheap.
You'd see a Casio there, and then across from me is another piano. So I have 3 pianos here. But a lot of times when I'm doing music production, if you want to lay some chords down, this is one that's really easy, like to put the chords in really quickly and just get them in real quick, and it kind of just hooks right to the computer through the cord. So you can really kind of do some things. Whereas if I had to use that one, you have to like unplug it and do some other things. So this one's like for quick inspiration. I can take it with me on the couch when I'm watching TV and practice my thing. So it's a little bit extra, but I'm finding some good use for it. So that's why we have our glorious.
So I have a follow-up question, and that is, can you lay one down for us?
You want me to lay some chords down for
you? I was going to ask the same thing. Yeah, lay it. We haven't had any Amani live music yet on this. Thank you, Dave.
I mean, it's basics. Haven't practiced anything yet. Let's see here. So, like, we do the 1-4-5-1.
I love it says because I really don't. Like, this is so far out of my.
I don't either. I have no idea what he's talking about.
I played the trumpet and marching band. That was pretty cool.
So that was just a real basic 1-4-5-1 for C major chords.
Oh, I missed it. Do it again. Sorry.
Okay, here we go. So you like. So that's like you go C to F to G to C. That's the 1-4-5 chord. You can go the D, like a D1. That's D. So just like chords like that, or you could play, scale. Just a simple C chord, just stuff like that, just basics.
So I think that'd be a fun class.
It's just so simple. It's just so simple.
It's not simple, but
no one's really asking. This would be a great class if you brought like you can do the DJ class, or you could do the music class, where you can promise everybody by the end of the class will be able to play one piano song.
Yeah,
not a scale.
Promise twinkle, twinkle, little star, Amani.
Yes, hopefully a little bit better. I'm not that good with playing like songs. So I learned like recently, and I've really learned through music theory, playing chords, 1-4-5, 2-5-1, all these different chords, which I'm out of practice in. So playing songs, though, is not my strength yet. Although I have a dream to play one song by Mariah Carey called "Vanishing." That's a really complex piano song, but I haven't got there yet. I grew up. What play instruments I played when I grew up? I grew up playing the saxophone. So I played the saxophone in like middle school, high school, and then I kind of stopped when I got to college. But yeah, that's
marching band or jazz band or concert band. Which one?
Jazz band. We were like an award-winning jazz band. Went to New Orleans. I grew up in the DC area, and we went to New Orleans for this competition. We were a phenomenal jazz band. We had some really, really cold players, cold being very good players.
Yeah, I get that. Well, I played in the marching band, and we had some cold days because football takes place in the fall and leads into the winter. So that we were cold too. And I'll also say here's another thing.
Just a different kind of cold.
there's a incredible sexual attraction towards trumpet players. I just want to tell you that right now. Right. So especially with the marching band uniform on and the toilet bowl helmet that goes over with the plume. I don't know what it
Yeah.
is. I think it's something about being a
Hot.
man in uniform.
So hot.
It is the
Yeah.
attraction.
Well, I gotta tell you, I love horns. I do love horns. And I actually owned a trombone at one point. Somebody gave it to me as a going away present when I left Ohio. And we played it so loud that we got it confiscated and almost got evicted from the apartment we were living in. That's my only experience with brass. I have no talent, but I appreciate if you can play it. Amani, I did not know you played the saxophone. And Dave, I did not know about the trumpet. Those are
See?
skills
These are
that
the things
I'm
you need to
very
learn.
jealous of. I'm very,
It's a
very
Yeah.
language.
jealous of.
You learn things when you ask questions.
I love asking questions.
Yeah. So here's another thing I noticed recently, and I mentioned this to one of my kids. Brass is coming back. Like if you listen to a lot of the music today,
Mhm.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
brass in the popular rock now. And I'm not talking like pop music as
Mhm.
much as like pop rock. Right? There's a lot, especially the indie
Mhm.
stuff. There's a lot of brass coming back.
Yes, well, we love instruments, so
I agree.
although they've taken a lot of the music classes out of the public school system, it's still good to see kids playing instruments and making them cool. So
And
I'm all about it.
can you imagine if Mandy broke out her trombone and you broke out your saxophone and I had my trumpet right now?
Yeah.
Jamboree. It'd be a jamboree.
It would be. We'd have to
I
navigate
have an
the.
electrical guitar up there.
I think when you call it an electrical guitar, you lose all credibility.
I'm just gonna
I have
say
an electrical.
guitar.
Well, I know. And it's missing 2 strings and it's a battery powered amp. Yeah, I don't play
Yeah,
it. It's just for show. But we could have a jamboree on a future show. I think we should
we could.
schedule that.
I
We
feel like
gotta
Take
we're
our
off track.
time to practice something and have a jamboree.
The
Yeah.
challenge when we do the online music is just the lag. It throws you off just by like even a half note or that, and that can mess up the entire thing. So we got to lock the lag in, and then we'll be good. So we'll add that to our to-do list. Now we're about 5 or 7 minutes from the conclusion of the show.
Okay.
So
And what have
since
we
you've already
done?
been asking us
What have we
questions,
accomplished here?
we've accomplished plenty. We've accomplished plenty. Since you've already been asking us questions, so
All
we
right.
kind of flipped the script here. I always love to ask if you could go back and talk to 21-year-old Dave right after you finished college,
Yeah.
right after you turned 21, and give him advice
Oh,
based on
brother.
what you know now. Talk to us.
Yeah. Can you see over my shoulder?
Yeah.
It says walk slow, smile more. So I was told, when I was 21, God, I was so green. Didn't know anything. Now I'm so wise. But I was so green. And
Mhm.
like I remember having an internship at Kraft General Foods, and this was like when I was a junior in college, and I remember thinking, so I'm gonna like work in a factory, like whatever, okay, I'll take it. So obviously that wasn't the case, but I learned about business through that internship, and I was thrust into this thing, and I just thought that's what I should be doing. And so I kept pushing and trying to shapeshift into who I was supposed to be to get that next job. And I was never really good at it, but I was pretty good at shapeshifting. So I'd like chameleon myself into who they wanted me to be in the interview. And so I'd say the right things, and um, I'd tell the right stories. I'd sell it, right? I'd sell what they were looking for, and then they'd hire me, and I'd be kind of okay at it, I guess, but I was more of a storyteller. And so one day this guy's walking me out. Mandy's heard this story from me before, but one day this guy was walking me out for my job working for SAP, big German software company, and he put his arm around me. It was an intern. It's at this point now as an MBA intern in between my 2 years, so I had some experience, and I was probably about 25, so a little older than 22, but I'd still go back to my 22-year-old and tell me this. And he said, Dave, I encourage you when you're walking through the halls, I encourage you to walk faster and smile less, because perception is reality. I was like, that's fucking brilliant. Like, that is amazing. Like, because anybody can do that. You don't have to be smart And you don't have to be an academic. You don't have to even be driven to do that. Just do it. You smile less and walk faster, like super easy. But apparently that's not true. Like I couldn't do that. And it was really, really hard, but I tried and I kept trying until finally I got fired from my job and I had to start a business in order to truly walk slow and smile more. And I built this whole business around the philosophy of walk slow, smile more. What I would tell my 21-year-old self is, in a nutshell, walk slow, smile more. But what that means is don't try to be what all these other people want you to be. Go out and build a business on your own and figure it out. Just have fun figuring it out. And you're going to fall and crash a lot. Go have some fun. Do not try to be all these things. I wasted a decade trying to be what the corporate world wanted me to be. I learned a lot and it wasn't terrible. I had a great time, but that's what I would tell my 21-year. I wish I started a business 10 years earlier. Be awesome.
Yeah.
That's good.
That was
That's
a
good
long answer.
advice.
If
I
we
have
have another
questions.
day, you can ask one
No,
more
it was
question.
great. No, it was a great answer. But I do have a question about, so let's just say your kids are in the corporate world right now, or let's just say other people in the corporate world, and they're wired to be in the corporate world. Like maybe they don't want to be an entrepreneur, they don't think they can. How do you suggest people that are either stuck or happy in the corporate world, how do you suggest they bring out their inner voice or their inner self, but still thrive in the corporate world? Because eventually you probably would have, raised your flag and been who you are and walked slower and smiled more. Maybe you would have found a corporation that would have done that if you hadn't started your business. So what advice do you have for people that are in a corporate environment? How can they make their inner self shine like you have so successfully?
Well, one, I'd say that they're wrong. They're not supposed to be. That's not true. They're not wrong. I don't. My hunch is that a lot of people are free to be themselves working in corporations. In fact, a lot of people like structure. The idea of coloring outside the lines makes them uncomfortable. And my characteristics don't. I'm just totally different than other people, and there's a lot of people like me too, and there's a lot of people like them. That's the beauty of having so many different people in the world, is there's a place for everyone. So I don't think working in the corporate world or being an entrepreneur is what prevents you from being yourself. In terms of, so to answer your question, I'm not talking to people that are working in a corporation. I'm talking to anyone, any young person, generally, because I think the way you eventually figure out who you are, just endure it, man. You fucking endure life, right? It's like eventually something's going to happen. I think for most of us, I can't say for everybody, but I can say for most of us, something happens where you just find enough confidence to appreciate yourself. And when you can find enough confidence to like yourself, that's when the flower comes out, right? Like that's when you blossom, is when you truly start to like yourself. Then you're free to let the flower grow. And God, I feel like I need to light up a bone or something right now. But like,
Yeah, okay, fire up your go hit the dispensary. No, I mean that,
but
it comes back to endurance.
yeah, it's
It comes
endurance
back to
to
endurance. It starts with endurance. Yeah.
it takes endurance to eventually like yourself for some reason, and I don't know why it is. God, I wonder if this is just an American thing or just a life thing, but like, I feel like we don't really like ourselves in the beginning.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it's the way we're trained to parent. Like we're constantly telling kids not to do things, don't do it this way, do it this way. Why do you think it is that most people have to learn how to like themselves? Why do you think that is?
Hmm.
I
Maybe it
don't
is.
Are we
know.
really
Probably
that
not my
screwed up as
experience at
kids?
all.
maybe the messaging we get as we're growing up about we pretty much trained or showed what not to do, and back then, failure was a bad thing, whereas nowadays it's looked upon a little bit more where failure is good by some circles. So that's what my first thought to it is just kind of don't cross the street without looking both ways, don't touch the hot oven, don't do these things, which is of course crucial, but I don't know, that's interesting, I have to think more on that.
But so maybe it's not that we don't like each other. Maybe that we haven't ourselves. I mean, but maybe it's that we haven't found the thing we're good at, right? So we haven't found that pride in what we're good at yet, and it takes time to figure out what is that thing that I do better. That's really specific to me. What is my core value to the world? And if I think maybe it's something like that. We could take another show and figure this out if you want.
Yeah, we have to add that to the parking lot, as
Yeah,
they say.
topic.
So,
No.
and Mandy, your question a half hour ago was, so how do we help people in the corporate world figure out what's good for them? Well, it has nothing to do with the corporate world. It just has to do with figuring out what it is you like about yourself, I think, is the answer. And I don't know how to do that other than just give it time and endure it.
Okay. Maybe that might be it. I think we're gonna
Good
what we
advice.
should do, Mandy, is we should probably pause this episode. We're gonna have to have Dave back for part 2 because we are just scratching the surface here. I can
I
tell
know.
right away. We're just scratching
I
the
agree.
surface.
We'll have to come to the next one completely ripped.
So we're gonna pause. But and we'll say that Dave shared with us that LinkedIn is the best way to contact him, or your website if people are curious about maybe working with you. Those would be the 2 best ways to kind of contact you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
www.propfuel.com, Dave
Yes,
at propfuel.com, or LinkedIn.
perfect. We put the link in the chat, so that's wonderful. So, just on behalf of both of us, thank you very much for sharing a tad of your wisdom with us. We'll have to get you back for part 2, obviously, because we have some more questions to discuss. I'm sure by then you'll be able to ask us more questions too. But just thank you very much for spending some time with him and
Well,
sharing.
thank you. But
sharing
I
you.
feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't ask Mandy a question. And Mandy, I see a picture of a building behind you. What is the building that's so important? I have a picture
Oh,
of it. Is that?
well, it's funny. I only have it's the Sheraton San Diego Hotel and Marina. So
I
in the
knew it was a
hotel business,
hotel.
when you work at a hotel, yeah, they give you these pictures when you leave the hotel with a mat, and then everybody signs it. I actually have 3 of these. I just don't have the other 2 up. But one that I got was an electric guitar from the Hard Rock, and they all signed that. So yeah, that's the
Nice.
Sheraton
Oh,
San
I
Diego
can
behind
see
me.
the
One of the
signatures
hotels I
on it
worked at. Yeah.
now. So it's all about the human connection, right?
Yeah.
Like all of us, we have the stuff
That's
behind us.
right. It was
The
very
meaningful
well.
stuff is all the human connection.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. We'll give you a round of
It's
applause. Thank you
all
very
about
much.
human connection.
Yes. Yes.
Mic
As he
drop.
walks off stage.